Ever wonder why so many smart people say stupid stuff? Wouldn't it be great if there was a manual so they would know what to say, when to say it at the right time? Well, there is. I wrote it. My name is Andrew Jacobs. I am the son of a printer. I am germphobic, have obsessive compulsive and attention deficit disorder. I'm also the only American who is currently a chairman of a publicly held company in Malaysia with over 200 people in our various companies worldwide. I've had the same wonderful wife for 31 years, 3 great kids, and I found the secret to a better life. My name is Andrew Jacobs. Welcome to my world. And now, a word from our legal department.
Hello out there, and thanks for tuning in. We hope what you see will turn your frown to a grin. But the viewpoints here are for entertainment only. We make no promises you won't be lonely. It's not our intent to counsel your life, tell you what to do, or how to get a man or a wife. Your life is yours, like your job and your kids, responsibility for which you'll never be rid. We have no liability for anything that you do. If your life doesn't work out, you can only blame you. But some new ideas are always fun for everyone. Now our song is done.
Welcome to the Ideal Owner's Manual for Life. It's based on my 39 years in our family's printing business. I thought you could use a little background before we go further. Ideal Jacobs Corporation has multiple locations worldwide with more than 200 employees. I'm based here at our plant in Maplewood, New Jersey, where our team, during the week, often spends more time with each other than our families at home. One of my jobs is to keep everyone as happy and productive as possible, but like everywhere else, we have our share of conflicts. Life is based on relationships, getting along, making that happen better is what I do. Use your brain and think rationally for a moment. What do you want? You want to be happier in your life, have better relationships, you want less stress and problems, you want to smile more and be angry less. How do you do that? Follow the rules. What rules, you may ask? My 8 rules of life. How did I develop them? Through years of hard-worn practice, disaster, a few successes, and some good experiences too. Will they work for you? I have no idea. Give me 25 minutes and let's try. Who knows, maybe it'll change your life. Let's go to the basics. Rule number 1, every interaction in life between a person and a non-living thing, person and a living thing, a person with a pet, and person to person, they are all defined as the exchange of goods, services, power, money, safety, security, sex, contentment, or anything else considered of value between the parties involved. What does all that mean? Actually, it's very simple, and the best way to explain it is to show you examples. Here's a relationship between a person and a non-living thing. This is Vincent Santoro, our Vice President of Global Manufacturing, and he loves trains. How'd you get started with trains, Vinny?
In 1952, when I was 3 years old, I got my first set of Lionel as a gift from my dad. I still have that set and many, many more.
What do you love about trains?
They never disappoint me. They have gotten me through many dark days as a child, many dark days as a young man, many dark days as an older man. I just love everything about them. I love the tactile feel of them. I love the post-war manufacturing excellence that they exhibit. Lionel trains were made here in New Jersey in the post-war. Sager Place in Hillside, before that Irvington, excuse me. So it's kind of a local thing. It takes me to post-war America. All I collect is Lionel from 1945 to 1969, which is the post-war era. I have pre-war, post-war, modern era. I collect exclusively post-war. So that takes me back to being a boy, like I have that connection in time. And like I said, being a manufacturing guy, I just love the quality and I feel like I have stewardship of them. They're gonna outlive me. Someone will have them after I'm done. I've got trains from 1945, 48, 49, and I'll pass those on to somebody.
The relationship you have with your trains is obvious. They give to you, you give to them. continuous.
No, it's a love
Every day.
fest.
Every
It's
day
a
you
love
go look at
fest.
them, right?
I love talking about them enthusiastically with other trained guys. I love talking about them right now, this second, thinking about them. When I go home, I'm probably going to take one out. I put up a big holiday layout, and I try and emulate the store displays of the 50s, which a lot of collectors do. It's not a very realistic layout because Lionel made a lot of whimsical cars that didn't exist on real railroads. And I'll put those out, and then when people come to visit my layout, I'll set the switches up so that they can actually operate the car. So like I'm trying to spread the joy. And I put up a big holiday layout. When I lived in a 500 square foot studio apartment, I had 10% of that space dedicated to trains. So it's just all good.
Love.
It is. It's a love fest. Every angle of it, every aspect of it.
This is my garden. When I come home from work, almost every night after dinner, I go outside and look for 5 or 10 minutes. It's a time of peace and joy for me, and I'm truly sad when they die in the fall. Is there a relationship between us? Definitely. I buy and plant the flowers, feed, water, and watch over them, and they provide me space to unwind, relax, and increase my happiness. Unfortunately, the groundhog and I have a contentious relationship because he and the deer consider my yard their personal salad bar. But such are the compromises in life. No relationship is perfect. Hi, Eileen.
Hi, Andy.
Why do you like cats?
Because they're relaxing, they're the sweetest creatures on earth, and I have the best cats
Why they're the best?
because they're just lovable. They each have their own personality.
When you go home at night, is that the first thing you say?
Oh, absolutely. My Leo greets me at the door like a little dog, wags his little tail, and then comes Chloe, then Belle, and then little Lucy.
And they start smiling the second they see you, and you do the same?
Oh, absolutely. I
they-
pet them all on the head.
Do they know when you're unhappy?
I don't, maybe Belle. Belle might.
So the relationship you have with your cats is an incredibly strong one.
Absolutely.
So the bond there is a mutual benefit. You take care of them, they take care of you.
Absolutely.
And in times of trouble or anything else, they huddle around you and they cuddle you and take care of you.
Every night.
Every night.
Every night I have at least 2 to 3 in bed with me.
So the exchange between you two and them is they give you love, you give them love, you take care of them, they take care of you.
Yep.
Perfect symbiotic relationship.
Yep. And I also have ferals that I take care of outside. Those I can't get close to, but I'm working on 2 of them. I'm very close to petting them.
How close are you in terms of in terms of a relationship with people? On a scale of 1 to 10, for your relationship with a person, let's say with your husband, you say you're a 9. In terms of the emotional give and take between you and cats, is it 1 and 7, 8? Is it the same as your husband in certain ways, a 9?
Certain ways, yes.
So the bond is really strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love them all the same.
Okay.
Maybe.
It's okay.
Maybe.
You got it. Thank you. People are people, and in my experience, the same around the world. They'll often react the same way to the same set of conditions, regardless of gender, race, or location globally. Therefore, to study one is to study all. This concept was never illustrated better for me than in 1968 at the Jersey Shore. This is what I looked like back then. Thinner than I remember. But it was a moment of change that would affect the rest of my life. At that time in my life, I was afraid of most things and very shy, especially of wearing a bathing suit in public. I just started to like girls, but were terrified of them. I needed a mentor, someone who could be my role model. Enter my brother's friend, Elliot. He was a 16-year-old experienced man of the world who was not only pleasant to everyone, he was pleasant to me. He had an easygoing manner that made him a magnet to women. I started to study Elliot and kept watching him. Luckily, they didn't consider it stalking back then. He seemed to work with almost no effort, and all women responded to him in kind. After a few weeks, I decided to make my move. I had a simple but very daunting goal. Elliot always greeted everyone with a smile, and early in the day simply said, "Good morning." I staked out a good place where I knew girls passed on their way to the pool area, and as one exceptionally pretty girl came by, I walked by her and I said, "Good morning." She smiled back at me. I was able to keep walking even though I felt like I was having a heart attack. I had done it, I had broken through. I had changed my life in under 10 seconds, and I was never going back to the way I was. Let's say you meet someone for the first time. See a person in an elevator or pass someone in a restaurant. If you smile at them, you conveyed the following messages. 1, you are a nice person. 2, you are not threatening them. 3, you think they are attractive in mind, body, or soul. 4, you have enough inner confidence to make the first effort. 5, you want to prove to yourself you two are attractive in some way and want to be acknowledged by them with a smile returned. 6, you're putting yourself out there to be rejected. If they ignore you, you can prove you are strong enough to handle it. 7, you're outgoing enough that if you or they want to pursue further conversation, you might be open to it. 8, you're also taking the dominant position in the interaction because you are going first and the other person is reacting. You're in control, at least for the start. Yes, that is all with just a smile. Remember, the rule states it's the exchange of goods, services, sex, money, anything of value over time. It could be a millisecond or it can be an eternity. It's up to you how long the exchange lasts. This is my grandfather. He lived to be 95 years old. His relationships along the whole way until the moment he died were filled with conflict, joy, sorrow, everything. Every relationship you go into is going to be messy. Count on it. Happens every time. It's like a stone going into the water. One relationship affects another, affects another, affects another. And they all involve the exchange of goods, services, and everything else. How do you measure it? How do you define it? We go back to rule number 1. Before you go into any situation, you want to know what asset is changing hands so that you can be sure that the exchange is in both you and their best interest. Remember, if you win everything, the other person will most likely never deal with you again and hate you in the process. Everyone needs to benefit to make it continue. I grew up in New Jersey. My grandfather started our company in 1921 after escaping from Romania early in the last century, before a lot of the Jewish families were killed. After World War II, he forced my father and my uncle to join him. Things went okay for a while, but eventually he retired and the two brothers went to war. A family feud ensued for the next quarter of a century, and I knew few of my relatives growing up. Warm, healthy family relationships were not a big part of my upbringing, but I learned what did not work, which was almost as good. One relationship often affects another, which in turn affects the original. We are human beings, we interact, we are social animals, and we cannot stop it, nor would we want to. Our ability to maximize the positive points of our relationships and reduce the negative aspects determines our happiness on an ongoing basis. The better we can handle the bulk of our relationships, the better our overall quality of life for us and everyone involved. You know that little voice inside your head, the one that tells you what to say and when to say it? It's dependent on what you think is being said. When is the best time to initiate an interaction and what to do? Problems occur because for many of us, the voice is wrong. Most of the time it is thinking from an emotional point of view. It's thinking about what you want and demand versus what the other person requires and needs to be addressed first. And that is a recipe for disaster. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, medical doctor, or professor. Everything I've done from practical experience, no theory, and that's who you want to learn from. To me, successful partnerships mean happiness, money, power, and getting ahead in life. All great things. Welcome to our studio, the arena of pain. This is where all lies go to die. If somebody says something false or based on theory, I call them out on it. Come join our journey. Do people say what they really mean? Not most of the time. Communication is split between verbal and nonverbal cues. I've been in many meetings throughout Europe and Asia where the other people involved will suddenly launch into another language, figuring they can say anything they want in front of me and I'll have no idea what they're saying. That's only partially true because over the last 4 decades, I've made a study of nonverbal communication, and I can mostly tell when someone is happy, angry, lying, likes me, hates me, wants to take advantage of me. Think about it. If you know those parts of the conversation, even if you don't understand the language, you know a lot about what's going on. Welcome to our segment, 5 Minutes is It. In every situation where you have 2 people or groups involved, you normally have a few minutes at best to be able to make a great first impression. No more. You could have an interview for hours, but really most of what gets done is in the first 5 minutes. So we're going to start mentoring sessions to show people what they should do in the first 5 minutes and get ready so that they have thoughts before they start and can handle the situations much more easily. Whenever you're nervous, if you've prepped already, it's a much better chance of getting things the way you want it. We're here with Michael Morozak, who is, what is your title here?
My title is Media and Marketing. So it's a little mix of everything from photography, videography, to graphic design, stuff like that.
It's really exciting because basically you came with us about a month ago.
Yeah, about a month.
And we didn't have a job for you. It was you were going to start doing shots for our website and photos and stuff. And then as rule number 1 states, the goods and exchange of services, it was you and my second in command together doing this. And then the idea for this show came up, and we had the thought of, oh my gosh, maybe you could actually work on it. So the exchange between us radically changed because you were then suddenly not only just taking pictures, you were suddenly doing video. And then you were suddenly doing video and suddenly doing whole shows. Now, how much experience have you ever had with that?
Aside from playing around in my own time, almost zero, to be honest with you. It's mostly comes from a background in just being familiar with how to work a camera, computer programs. But
the good part is that when we came to you and said, can you do this? You didn't say no. As per the exchange between us, I needed somebody who could put a show together. I didn't have anyone. I had you, I had our 3 fantastic interns, and none of you had any experience, including me, and we just winged it, or wung it. I don't even know what the past pronunciation of that is, but it worked. But the point is that you were willing to be open to it, and you didn't even give me any, I don't think so, I don't think it's a good idea, we're never going to get a great product. You just said, go. And rule number 1 states that the exchange between us meant that it's a positive exchange. I didn't know it was going to happen. You didn't know it was going to happen. We're both ready to take the chance to do it. And because we were both willing to put ourselves out there, you have a chance at a full-time job, which you didn't before. Not that there's any pressure riding you that we have to merchandise this program, which of course there is. But the point is that we never would have been where we are had you not been there. So fate is also a very big part of things. I'm a believer in fate. You were brought to us at a particular time to be able to make things better. We needed you. You need a job. We want to keep you on. You want to stay on. I think the mojo between us is good enough that just that alone will mean that we'll get to the next level of something else.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when it comes to photography, videography, design, it's a skill. It's a craft. Some people like to think it's purely an art form, but really you can never stop learning. So when an opportunity comes along to do something that you've never done before, I always look at it as it's a new opportunity to learn. So it's a challenge. You know, I've never done filmmaking before. You came to me, asked if I can do it. I said I think so, and here we are making a show. So, you know, and like as we always say, you'll get better as you go along. I'd rather take the chance and try filmmaking. And if I fail at it, I fail at it. But I'd rather try and say I tried it. And who knows, it might turn into something wonderful.
A perfect example of rule number 1. I help you, you help us, we help you, you help us. Continuing exchange, betterment along the way. No better example. Meet Tack, the ideal 3D printing surface for FDM 3D printers. Tack is a heat-resistant, specially textured plastic sheet that adheres to your bare print bed or build plate. Tack sheets are more rigid than Kapton and masking tape, and therefore, we believe, are much easier to install or apply to the bare build plate and are much less susceptible to air bubbles getting trapped beneath the surface. You just remove the adhesive liner and apply to your clean build plate. Once you have the print bed level and nozzle height set just right, Tack just works. Welcome back to the mentoring session. This is Mike. Mike, what do you do here?
I'm training to be a graphic designer.
How's it going with that?
It's going quite well.
And who is training you?
Both my older brothers, who have been working here for the last decade.
The reason you're in this seat is because as a mentor, I look and I see that your brothers can be somewhat hard on you. And I thought that you might use a few minutes of possibly some suggestions on how to handle them a little better, to make your life a little easier with them.
Okay.
Good idea?
I guess.
Okay, so let's try it. How do you get along with your brothers?
Well, it's I can't really complain too much. Yeah, they tease me and they give me a hard time around things, but it comes with the territory. They're my older brothers.
How do you feel about that?
Don't really care. I've
Really?
grown to live with it. Yeah.
Well, you're living with it. Does that mean it's okay, or you're just living with it?
It makes me. It feels like it's like they're trying to make me tougher. Is how I take it as.
Is that a good thing?
Yes. So then when I deal with someone else outside of them who probably would mean something more harmful or not, I could bear it with it, probably even deal with it. That's how I've always taken it as.
Okay, so therefore they're trying to help you to be tougher. That's a good thing and a good way to look at it, that you're not being bullied by them. But if you think that you have that tendency to be somewhat easygoing, maybe too easygoing, maybe there's some other things you should do to possibly get yourself tougher beforehand so that you're ready to not only deal with your brothers, but ready to deal with the rest of the world.
Okay, yes.
Maybe?
I can see that, yeah.
And what would kind of thing be? What would you do to make yourself tougher? Mentally, physically? What way do you think that you're not? Because I know they're somewhat harassing you mentally. Are they harassing you physically too?
No.
Okay, so they're not going around pushing you around,
No.
because then you'd fight back.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, so that's not an issue.
No.
So really, it's mind to mind.
Yes, I guess.
Okay, are you as smart as they are?
I like to think so.
Okay, all right, you're doing the same work that they're going to be doing?
Yeah, that's going to be hopefully the future.
Okay, so the only real difference here is that they're a little older than you are.
Yeah, with more experience with the work and I guess suppose other things too.
All right, so right now you're in a bit of a captive position because you have to learn from them and they can lord it over you.
Yes.
So what can we do to make that different, to make your life easier? Would you want to be trained by somebody else?
No. Again, it doesn't really bother me. I can't find anything to say it's bad.
That means that you're totally okay with the way it is, and that if it stays this way indefinitely, you'll be all right.
Yes, and I'll defend my brothers in this case because the other day when Dave was by me, he was teaching me how to do certain things that I didn't know. It got a little infuriating, but ultimately I did learn. I learned so much more just with him there. Yeah, he was giving me a hard time, but it all came to me. I picked up on it very quickly.
Do you ever get upset with it?
In the moment.
Are you going to be less upset with it now that you've talked about it and you still think it's a good idea? In other words, the fact that you now have said that it is okay for you to have this situation as a continuing thing, does that mean it's okay for you?
Yeah.
Does that mean you'll get less upset in the future if you would have gotten upset before?
Yes, I suppose.
So therefore, talking about it perhaps sometimes works better because then you can realize the situation for what it is. It's not your brothers beating up on you, it's your brothers teaching you in a way that they feel they can teach you.
They've always done, yeah.
And when you are as smart as they are and as able to do your job as they are now, then they won't do it anymore?
Yes, unless...
So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
To make you move faster and get tougher.
Yes.
And be better.
Yeah.
Because if you're better, then you will rise higher.
Yes.
And if you become in charge of them, that would be a very fun thing for you, wouldn't it?
It would be, I suppose.
No?
I haven't put much thought into that.
Why not? Didn't you ever think of you being the boss as opposed to them?
I never viewed my brother as bosses.
Why? They always think about it for you.
It was more of an equal thing with them.
Can it never be equal, or does one have to dominate?
They can try.
I'm not trying to cause you trouble. I'm trying to make you think past where you are.
Okay.
There's no reason that you can't be further ahead than they are.
Of course, I'm not saying no.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's no reason why you can't be in charge.
That's true.
So for the future, if they're bugging you now, fine. Learn what they have. They're basically your mentors. Suck every ounce of information you can from them. And once you've passed them, you'll pass them.
That's true.
Something good to look forward to.
Yes, it is.
And a good way to look at it. Especially before you belt one of them. It would not be a good thing.
I want to do that.
Not here.
No.
Okay.
That's what home's for.
We've been throwing a lot of information at you. Decided to slow things up a little bit. Welcome to story time. Yesterday, Mike, our head of operations, came over to me. We were working on getting suppliers for a new piece of business, and he needed some painted metal parts. I had found 2 new possible suppliers, and we called them. And the 2 people who owned them were old timers, I could tell. They were small companies, these guys owned them, decided what they were gonna do, and I knew exactly how to talk to them. I knew how to put them at ease, I knew what they wanted, I knew how to handle them. And I knew that because of my dad. And that's what I said to Mike. I said, you know, my dad taught me this. My dad taught me a lot. We started the business together basically again in the 1970s. He had gone off by himself after the breakup with his brother. And by the time I came into the business in 1977, it was just him and his secretary. The secretary left because she didn't like me. and it was just him and I. And together we rebuilt what we had before. But my dad always wanted a small company. He didn't want a big one. And I wanted a big one. So eventually it became a problem, and I paid him off and he left. But he was never really thrilled with the way the company went from that point on. Whenever we were together, he would always look at me and say, "So, how's it going?" And basically he would say, "It's not the way I would do it." Over time, it became more and more difficult. The more successful I became, the harder it was to deal with him. Because we competed, that was the way he set it up. The better I was, the worse it came for him. And it got to the point where going over to see him was becoming a major problem for me. He would look at me and say, "That's not the way I would do it." And I would look at him and say, "Well, it seems to be working, and even if it doesn't work, it's the way I do it." And within the last couple of years before he died, it became a real problem. And it started to become a high level of animosity between us. And rage developed. I couldn't understand why he would not say that he thought I was doing a good job and why he wasn't proud of me. But he knew that that was the one thing I wanted to hear, therefore that was the reason he wouldn't say it. He died at the end of 2015. We ended okay. I tried to make sure that after every time we had seen each other that there was not a fight or an overall brawl. But I would come home and talk to my wife and I'd say, "Do you see any lances coming out of my body?" Because I always felt like he was trying to attack me. The rage level continually went up and up and up, and I got more upset because there was nothing I could do to make things better. I knew he was dying, even though it took a while. There was nothing I could do to try to make things better. He was impossible. He viewed life from his own. Life was the way he wanted it, and if you weren't involved in it, you weren't part of it. It got really difficult. But the last time I saw him, it was okay, and we knew he was going. And after he passed, we were all over their apartment, and it was very sad. But he had died the way he wanted, and that was a very good thing. But I was still left with rage, and it kept building, angrier and angrier, until finally, about 4 months ago, I was on a trip from Asia back to the US. I travel a lot. I was traveling at 30,000 feet, enraged at my father, angry, still as fresh as it had been the day before he died. And I decided enough was enough. So I called a conference with God, my father, and my grandfather. And I said to my grandfather, I said, "You had trouble bringing up my father." And I said to my father, "You had problems bringing up me. And I've had problems bringing up my kids. We've all done things we wish we had, and we've all done things we wish we had done better." And I said, "It's time that we forgive each other." And I determined that from that day on, I was no longer going to be angry or enraged at him. And I was able to do it. And it worked out. And things became calmer. And it was a much better time. And I was able to say, "Okay, here's some good things he did." A lot of good things. And that's why yesterday was so special, because now I'm at the point where I can look at the good, not only the bad, and the time we spent between each other. And it was really a good thing. So sometimes the exchange of the goods and services between people takes time, and sometimes it's after they die. But that's okay as long as it eventually comes out. I can realize it, I can understand it, I can even talk about it. And it might take you a while to do the same thing, but don't give up hope. Even if the person's not there anymore, you can still make it right, and everything can still be good. Okay, now we should try and actually go by the script. Yeah, shoot down. There we go. That's better. Let's go to the basics. Now for the 8 rules. How many times do I do this? Okay, that didn't work either. States the exchange of good, services, sex, time, anything over an The rule states the exchange of sex. What are you doing?
I can see you. He's like in the shot.
Do you think you should button your shirt?
I think it looks great. I got this from my wife. She's very nice to me. Someone's going to be affected, which is going to affect everything else. It's like a... Oh well, that was good while it lasted. Tired about that groundhog. Get something done with him. Man, he's eating all my plants. Hi, We're now into number 2.
Do we have to start that over?
Is that really what you're gonna say?
It's already there. See how that looks.